Hello, my friends. Yesterday I saw the British King Charles. Charles, it seems he can't even put toothpaste on his toothbrush. That every morning there's a butler paid to put the toothpaste on his toothbrush. Anyway, I saw him talking about geopolitics. The longer you live, the more things you see. And he was talking with Trump about who would have spoken which language. Trump said if America hadn't intervened during World War II, well, the British would be speaking, I think, German. And the king jokingly replied that if they hadn't intervened earlier, 2 centuries before, well, what would have happened if the British hadn't come to the Americans' aid, who weren't Americans yet, who were proto Americans? Well, the United States today would be speaking French. So you see, that was just before starting to call for World War III, just before King Charles called for a third world war and all that. Do you see what's funny about the story? Because you look at these people who are in charge, who are ultimately the heirs of those who previously ruled the people. Well, you look at them and they change things. Wars like the Second World War, 80 million deaths around the world. Well, they turn that into a kind of linguistic quarrel. You see, they sum it up in stories about who would have spoken English, French, or German. I would say that today they'd be speaking Urdu. Maybe that's the big question. But anyway, leaving aside the topics that cause arguments, because that's a subject that can easily upset people. Anyway, I've been here in the United Kingdom for a few days now, and I'm looking at the country with a fresh perspective in a way. Because when I left for Africa, I'm speaking from experience here. It's an emotional experience. I couldn't have predicted it. You can't predict these things. You live through them and then you see what comes of it. So, what I can tell you is that today I have some perspective. I really feel detached from what's happening. You might say, yeah, but you've only been here for a week. If you stay 6 months, you might do something else. It's possible or not, that's all. Voilà. Me. But I look at the country today, I look at its craziness. When, for example, just before I went to press, just before I hit rec, I saw that they're going to ban washing machines for clothes. I don't know why, but I imagine it's for climate reasons. I didn't even read everything. I think they want us to go back to the washboard, a board, the big metal basin, and then the bar of soap, Marseille soap. Mothers back in the day with the baby strapped to their back like that, rocked by the movement of the soap on the board. Yes, maybe that's what they want to go back to. I don't know. But anyway, I don't care at all. You see, that's the difference compared to before. That's what I was trying to tell you. Because stupid news like that in a country that's completely lost its mind is an everyday thing. I mean, it's not even just everyday life. You can find decisions like that every 4 hours. You know that the country, for example, is borrowing at nearly 6%. 30-year British government bonds are at almost 5.8. They're heading towards 6%. It's literally CTLM lending. And that money, taken as is paid out as welfare. That's false. Not paid out as welfare. That's not the way you should look at things. If I tell you this, it's true. It's true, yes, it will be true. But there's an important element missing from the equation. Actually, if you want, here, everything is set up for the big players, isn't it? We're going to, for example, crush the small store to favor Amazon, for example. And then if you look, practically all the laws that have been passed, everything that exists here is set up for the big players and to crush the little guys. So, in the context I'm talking about welfare, you picture people who don't work, you assume these people don't work. Then there's the whole welfare thing, but that's not actually true. A good portion of workers in this country are eligible for welfare benefits because they're paid peanuts. So, actually, what happens is that people, for example, working in a supermarket or a warehouse, something like that, and what happens is that their employer pays them. And then The taxpayer covers the rest of the salary through borrowing. So actually, we're subsidizing these companies' wage bills to leave them with more money, more profit for their shareholders and for their CEO. Companies that are going to pay 100 million a year to a CEO, we're going to pay thousands and thousands of employees for them. Employees they couldn't have had if they had to pay them the real price. So they pay half, they won't get half. That's much more balanced. A law is coming tomorrow, just so you know. May 1st, a law is coming tomorrow. That's what this law will do. It's going to do what I'm about to tell you. It's going to regulate rents, it's going to regulate renting, and control the rental market. Honestly, I'm not going to come here to be extremely hostile to this law. That's not necessarily my goal. Maybe for some of these signatories, there's a desire to bring the United Kingdom out of the Victorian era by giving a few rights to tenants. Yes, but it's a law that will make renting so complicated that many landlords won't rent. Because it becomes a huge risk to rent. If you rent, you forget a paper, you just forget one thing, an energy certificate, whatever. 2 years, 3 years later, the tenant can file a complaint against you. You have to pay back all the rent, plus compensation, plus a fine, plus legal fees. So renting becomes a huge risk. So be careful. This applies up to a rent of £10,000 sterling per month. Beyond that, it doesn't apply. That simply means anything like a castle, a mansion, a luxury apartment, or individual house in London, high end properties, all of that, it doesn't apply. That means, quite simply, we're going to apply this to the general population, but not to the ultra wealthy. The ultra wealthy, they will be exempt from this law. You see, one law for some, another law for others. Even better, what's the goal? The sneaky goal. So the apparent goal is that we're going to improve the situation for tenants, and maybe to some extent we will improve it a little. Yes, that's true. I'm not going to deny that. But be careful. The real goal of the law, when you look at it, and that's the spirit of the laws in this kingdom, is that it's going to become such a regulatory nightmare. So in the end, when you take Jean-Pierre, who's dating Caroline, while they live in Caroline's apartment or studio, Jean-Pierre's apartment is empty, but he can't rent it out. It's too complicated. He's taking too many risks. So he's going to leave it empty. What's going to happen to Jean-Pierre? He won't be able to realize the value. He won't be able to realize the value. So actually, everything that's being done here to destroy the value for the little guys, we're going to tell him, leave your apartment empty and don't rent it out. What's going to happen? When you look at these big companies, these mega companies that are going to own 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 apartments, what do they have? They have a compliance department. They keep lawyers on retainer all year. They have legal experts, they have specialists, they'll have entire floors in glass towers in London filled with people whose only job is compliance. And do you know who will pay their salaries? The tenant. Will add it to their rent, will tack the compliance costs on, and for them it's no problem at all. Why? Because they have economies of scale. Jean-Pierre, with his studio apartment, can't do that. That's the idea. It's always about destroying the little guy to benefit the big players, destroying the grocery store to favor Amazon. So you see, I just wanted to tell you, now I see it, but with detachment, because now it's no longer my life. I could even live here, but it wouldn't affect me. It really wouldn't affect me. Do as you want, live as you want. I'm here watching. I feel like I'm living kind of on a parallel track. I don't know how to say this. I feel like there's a pane of glass. So you'll tell me there really is a glass pane. I'm in a car. Yes, there's a glass pane. But actually, I feel like there's a glass pane between me and this environment. And maybe it's because I lived in Mauritius for a year that today I have this distance. That's what I wanted to tell you. I have this distance from things, you see. Otherwise, I enjoy being here. Otherwise, really, I'm very happy to be here. The weather is nice, people are pleasant, they're friendly, the food is good. Franchement, honestly, I have my car again. I kind of miss driving a powerful car. It's true that it's a pleasure. It's something I missed, all right? Because I drive a small car in Mauritius since there aren't many big cars over there. It's very limited. It's an island, that's normal. You go to Singapore, you go to the islands, and so on. You don't have as much choice. The car market won't be as big. Anyway, they're going to ban them here anyway. I think one day we're going to reverse all that. There you go. My friends, I'll leave you now. I'll leave you. Thank you for listening this far. It was a pleasure sharing this with you. Let me remind you of my book, The Titan. The Titan. These are the guys who went to the Titanic to explore, to see it up close. They didn't see anything. They only saw darkness. They dove into water that's like coffee. They're done for. We gave a shoebox to their parents, to the family. The family received it. We scraped the seabed. We found a bit of DNA, if you will. We put that in a box. We gave it to the family. There you go. It's a terrible story. See you in the next one, my friends. See you very soon.